lesson sermon talks about us being hip-hop. You know, the title is We Are HIPHOP. And at InSpiritTruthCenter, when we say hip-hop, we're talking about a higher, infinite power healing our people. Say it after me. Higher, healing our people. And when we think about it, that's really who we are. That's really who we are. Now, that's a term that came to me in 2005 when I started hip-hop ministries. That when we look at hip-hop culture, and we look at the things that have been done in the name of hip-hop culture, it's almost impossible for you not to see God in the middle of that. It's almost impossible. When you look at hip-hop culture, is only 40 years old as a culture. 40 years. And yet, when you look at the way that the entire world has been affected in 40 years, we're not smart enough to do that, Michigan. We're just not smart enough to do that by ourselves. So God has to be in the middle of that. So when you start looking back scripture-wise, whenever I think about hip-hop, I think about just how we always seem to be ones that are going against the grain. They were always doing it a little differently. So our foundational scripture is from Romans 12:2, which says, "Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And that fits us perfectly at InSpiritTruthCenter, because we take ancient wisdom, but we have a new thought on it. We simply think about it differently. We know there's nothing new under the sun. Everything's already been done. Everything is already here. All discoveries are self-discoveries. Word? Word? So we know that as we come into our own discovery of ourselves, and at InSpiritTruthCenter, our whole mission is to become the Christ. So we model Jesus and the teachings, but we look at the 12 disciples because they were just like us, right? Right? They didn't really know what was going on. They had a teacher there that they would see him do things, and even though he said, "These things that I do, you too shall do, and greater." They had a hard time believing it, Judy, until he was gone. Then when they had to manifest the things themselves, they found out that they too were a higher, infinite power healing our people, that they were hip-hop. So when we look at from the ancient times, if you go all the way back in ancient scripture, there are always a set group of people that understand their mission is to help heal each other. Now, there's a whole other group that sometimes just don't get it and don't even believe it. And we know that if you don't believe it, then you can't achieve it. It's not possible. And that's the beautiful thing about true teachings, is that you don't really have to know anything. It's about you believing who you are, and what you are here to do. And hip-hop culture manifests that in ways that are unconscious to us sometimes. But we don't really know what we're doing. Just like there's a line there, I said, I don't really know how the Most High is going to be flowing, but I got faith in it. 2004. So the H law, well, the H law for us is health, love, awareness, and wealth. Everything that we're doing should be allowing us to manifest better health, more loving relationships, being aware of what's going on, and the wealth, which is not only the physical, but the mental and emotional as well. Now, because we live on the earth, things operate in this duality consciousness, word? So if you're not building toward the H law, health, love, awareness, and wealth, then consciously or unconsciously, you're building the opposite. Sickness, hatred, ignorance, poverty. Now, you can get with that or you can get with this. But at InSpiritTruthCenter, we take pride in being one of the few, if not the only, metaphysical hip-hop truth centers. We don't hide away from hip-hop because of the negativity that the mainstream industry tries to make us think. Typically, when you hear the word hip-hop, most people are thinking what? Rap. What kind of rap? Negative rap music. And that's a small portion of even rap music. That's the smallest portion of rap music. But whenever you're trying to marginalize the people, the first thing that you want to do is discredit them in their thoughts. Discredit them in a way of being self-identified. So when we say we are hip-hoppers, people look at us like, hip-hoppers? What is that? What does that even mean? Well, that means that people that are self-identified as being a part of hip-hop culture. And hip-hop culture is the only culture that I know right now that is actively looking to get beyond some of the things other generations have not been able to get past. We strive against racism. We strive against sexism, homophobia, religious intolerance, all those different things that people have not been able to get past. We are striving we have a hip-hop declaration of peace that we presented to the United Nations. May 16, 2001, we presented a document so we can show ourselves as an autonomous community. This past Friday, we did a hip-hop proclamation for the city of Atlanta to recognize Hip Hop Appreciation Week. So let's get up for the city of Atlanta, first of all. Yes, they've been recognizing this is the 17th overall Hip Hop Appreciation Week, but the 13th for Atlanta celebrating. And we did it right down City Hall Atrium. I see some of our Zulu brothers came in. Zulu Nation? Zulu? Yes. And for us to do it down Atlanta City Hall was very important and significant because we, the adults, particularly those that are over the age of 30, we have to understand that our youth are being programmed by a system that hates them. Let me say that again. Are being programmed by a system that hates them, has no use for them, in fact, are setting traps up against them to marginalize them at every opportunity. So they begin to make them think small of themselves. They have this term of dumbing down themselves. When our children are brilliant across the board. And yet, if they get into the mindset where it's not cool to be smart, or it's not cool to show your best, it's not cool to dress appropriately, then they begin to be programmed in that. And this system works 24/7, 365, with the TV shows, with the movies, with the music, with the video games. It's all being engineered for their own destruction. But hip-hop, at its essence, at its very essence, we know that there is nothing new about what we call the elements of hip-hop. Breaking, MCing, graffiti, DJing, beatbox, fashion, language, knowledge, entrepreneurialism. There's nothing new about those elements. They've been around from ancient times. But if we look at what happened during the late 60s and early 70s, to bring all those elements together, you'll see some of the same factors that are happening right now. Young people being marginalized, young people being disregarded by the mainstream society. So young people came up with their own ways to save themselves. So when we say hip-hop saved our lives, that's not just a nice little metaphor. It's literal. Those of us that are over the age of 30 can give you stories about how hip-hop music and culture made us stand upright, made us want to be a certain kind of way, word? Made us want to present ourselves. In fact, we come from an era where we call it edutainment. You didn't want to be caught unstudied. You didn't want to be caught not knowing something. But yet here we are, a generation later, when we allowed our children to get caught up in some of the nonsense. And mind you, I have nothing against any of the rappers. They can make whatever kind of music that they want because we come from an era where you had Luke and Two Live Crew, you had NWA, you had Kid and Play, Public Enemy, Bring It Down Production. We had a variety of different flavors that we can look at. Whereas though now, if you look at the top 10 artists and the top 10 videos, they pretty much look the same. They're talking about a lot of gross materialism. They're talking a lot of sex and violence and just a lot of nonsense. And while there's a place for nonsense, particularly when you're young, if we don't balance it all, then we end up having a generation that has no real aspirations to be who they were destined to be, who they were designed to be. And when it all gets down to it, all of us have a divine purpose. And we as the adults, we say it takes a village to raise a child. But if the villagers are crazy, then we're going to have crazy children. We can't blame them for our craziness, word. We have to get ourselves together. We have to understand that God has given us a purpose. And we use that purpose to hip-hop culture. So at the very essence of hip-hop culture, it's about self-identification. It's not an accident that we change our names immediately when we get involved with the culture. So when I was in high school, even though I was David Tavares, when I started rapping, I was MC Dave T. Why? Because MC Dave T was much more powerful. That was my own self-identification. Went to college, became DJ Server, then met Minister Judy, became Minister Server. It's a whole other story. But we do that because when you begin to identify yourself, that's your first step of claiming your own freedom, word? And you know, that goes back to, if you think about the miniseries Roots, when Kunta Kinte was being told his name was Toby, and he was beating him, trying to make him say Toby, and finally he submitted, but he knew in his heart that he would always be Kunta Kinte. Kunta Kinte, because self-identification is important, and that's at the essence of hip-hop culture, to be self-identified. The entertainment industry can try to say whatever they want to say about us, but we will be here forever. And ever and ever, and ever and ever, we will be here forever. And we have children that we're teaching. So even when we physically leave, they're still going to be here. That essence has always been here. When you read the gospel of hip-hop, KRS has done a wonderful job as far as research and going back in ancient times and showing how hip-hop has always been around. Not just in the 1970s when it manifested itself, but he goes into different cultures from Europe and Asia and Africa and South America to show that this essence of what we call hip-hop culture has always been around. It's something that the Most High has always given us. Though we know there's many different names that we call the Most High, none of us are going to deny that our Creator is a higher infinite power healing our people. Word? So that in itself is a unifying point for us. And yet when we look at how we're allowing hip-hop to get, I know a number of my peers, I'll be 50 years of age in about 40 days. Yes, 50, yes, thank you. I finally get to step into my eldership, Jehudi. So I am looking forward to that. But often when I talk to my peers, they have such a negative viewpoint on what they call hip-hop, where they're really talking about negative rap music. And nobody wants to see the negative rap music, women being disrespected and the clothes hanging down, and just nobody over 35 wants to see that nonsense because it's just not visually appealing to us. Word? Man, when I see young cats with their pants hanging down, it just vexed me to no end, Bobby. I mean, I get more upset than I probably should because my sons know I don't play that at all. At all. I'm not having that because you should always be aware of the way you're presenting yourself to the world. And yet we know the essence of that, even though it started in the prison culture. Tupac Shakur, you know, had a whole philosophy about why he was sagging and this, that, and the other. And they've taken Tupac's, you know, acting imagery and tried to make it a life thing. Whereas though we as the adults, we have to be able to at least balance it all for them. So when we talk about hip-hop culture and all the things that are going on, every year we have a theme for Hip-Hop Appreciation Week. And the theme for this year is unity. So from today, May 18th through May 24th, is Hip-Hop Appreciation Week 2014. There are different events going on in Atlanta. I know the Funk Lords are doing some things that are going on now. They've been doing some things the whole week. There's some things going on Monday at, what's Dred's spot with the Boondocks? Quick, I can't think on Edgewood. But on Tuesday, there's something going on at Apache. But there's something going on the whole week. And we're doing things in school as well. So what I tell people, the main thing about Hip-Hop Appreciation Week is for us to take time to appreciate ourselves, to recognize ourselves, not to wait for anyone else outside of our community to validate us, to know that God has given us a place to make ourselves better and make the world better. And as a human being, that's your job, to make yourself better so you can make the world better. Word? So whatever your spiritual path is, it fits in hip-hop. Because we're not trying to convince, coerce, or convert you to be any type of religion. That's your private business. But we know God is universal, and God is a higher infinite power healing our people. So we are hip-hop. Word? We are hip-hop, and will always be that. So as we become aware of that, then we can share that with each other. So what I'd like to read for you very briefly is every year I send out a message for Hip-Hop Appreciation Week, and it goes out to our international community. What you also have to understand is that outside of the United States, hip-hop culture is taken a lot more seriously than we do in the United States. In the United States, we sometimes minimize it to entertainment, you know, to rap music. Even when they have these panels and they say, well, hip-hop dealing with whatever. Most of the time, it's just a bunch of rappers or a bunch of entertainment people. Very rarely do they have b-boys on the panel. Very rarely do they have graffiti artists or DJs on the panel. They're normally just dealing with rap. So again, we have to be aware of that and make sure that we are understanding what's going on as well. So let me just read this very briefly. In accordance to the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace, every third week of May is Hip Hop Appreciation Week. During this time, hip-hoppers are encouraged to honor their ancestors, reflect upon their cultural contributions, appreciate the elements and principles of hip-hop culture. Also, one of the goals of Hip Hop Appreciation Week is to decriminalize the images that hip-hop culture that are normally presented by the mainstream media. So this week, as you're talking to your peers, begin to present to them a different view of what they may always hear about hip-hop, okay? During Hip Hop Appreciation Week, hip-hoppers are encouraged to amplify the good works that we're doing in our communities throughout the year. This year, the Temple of Hip-Hop, Universal Zulu Nation International Hip Hop Council, and Hip Hoppers Worldwide celebrate the 17th Annual Hip Hop Appreciation Week, May 18th through May 24th. Our theme is unity. Now more than ever, it's time to put aside any individual, organizational, or personal disagreements and commit to unity in the hip-hop culture for our families, our leadership, our organizations, and our communities. One of the things that we use is the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. There's a website, declarationofpeace.com, that you can go to, and that document is up there. It's not the poster that you see with the pictures, it's the actual document, and it's written up about 10 or 15 different languages. So if you know people in the international community, you can begin to expose them to that as well, because we want to make sure that we're guided by principles, not personality, not organizational personal agendas. So whether you're down with KRS or Africa Bambaataa, it doesn't matter. If you're down with hip-hop culture and you understand these principles, and I tell people, when you look at these principles of the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace, those 18 principles, I don't know anyone in their right mind that would disagree with those principles. If you tell me what you're passionate about, I'll point you to what number that principles already existed in that document. It's a broad, far-reaching document that we hope that our children will learn that they can actually manifest it in their lifetime. Okay? So there are many ways that hip-hoppers can demonstrate Hip-Hop Appreciation Week. And of course, I like to tell people what to do, Judy. I like to tell people what to do. But I do have some suggestions. These are just some suggestions for Hip-Hop Appreciation Week. Number one, hip-hoppers are encouraged to unite with the pioneers that has established the foundation of hip-hop culture. Not only the pioneers like Africa Bambaataa and Kool Herc, but the pioneers locally. There are some Atlanta pioneers that we don't know about. Whatever cities that you're in, there are pioneers that we need to find out about while they're still here so we can celebrate them. Number two, hip-hoppers are encouraged to unite with other individuals and organizations that are working to make our communities better. When we introduce them to the concept of a higher infinite power healing our people, watch the response that you get from them. It's irresistible. No one's going to resist the higher infinite power healing our people. So we want to link with people that are making our communities better. Number three, hip-hop practitioners. These are the artists and the ones that are actually doing the elements. We are encouraging them to unite with other organizations to share their time and their talents, maybe mentor a class, mentor a youth, teach someone something that you do, something that you are gifted in, teach somebody that during this Hip-Hop Appreciation Week. Number four, hip-hoppers are encouraged to network, build alliances, and unite coalitions and partnerships that are mutually beneficial for not only you, but for the community. Number five, hip-hop practitioners are encouraged to unite with each other. Too many times we have hip-hop events where, again, it's only rappers. You don't see the b-boys there, you don't see the DJs there, you very rarely see the graph artists there. But during Hip Hop Appreciation Week, we want those elements to be united as much as possible with the practitioners. Number six, hip-hoppers are encouraged to unite and contact the local, national, and international media outlets. During this week, call them through your local radio station and ask them to play some music other than what they're playing. They probably won't do it. Let's be real, they probably won't do it, but just you calling up will let them see that we want to see a change in our radio stations. We know that the underground and the internet, we can get what we want, but the mainstream radio stations belong to us too. Those are public airwaves, word? So we have to at least let them know that we want something different. And number seven, learn about the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace. That document itself is our saving grace. When anyone wants to present us in any other way as positive, uplifting, positive people, we have a Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace that says, no matter what you may think, we presented this to the United Nations. This is us. That's not us. This is us. And as we learn that document and teach it to our children, then we can go about making the changes that we want to see hip-hop, so we can all say, we are hip-hop. It is true, we let it be, and there it is. Word.